is an understanding and control of your own emotions and understanding others' emotions to be able to take action, whether it's to motivate, to innovate, to inspire, to communicate. The point is that we're using these things to make something happen. And that's the important part, that actionability. Strategic application for actionability. This is important. Hi, and welcome back to the Empathic Leader, where we talk about all things empathy, EQ, and leadership. I am Dr. R, and I'm really happy to see you. Please like and subscribe so that we can keep you up to date on all the new stuff that we're talking about. The new stuff right now is coming straight out of my book, which is going to be published this September. So we are going to put the pre-sale link below. If anybody is interested, there is a slight discount if you order now, and I will autograph those copies that go out. And it won't go out till September, but the pre-sale link is here. So this week, we're going to dig in a little deeper and move into Chapter 2 of the book. And of course, because it's a proper book, Chapter 2 really defines everything for the rest of the book. We break down empathy, we break down EQ, we break down a lot of different elements. So let me give you just a preview of what goes on here. The quote that I start this chapter out with is, if you're asking how to create a more empathetic workplace, you're way ahead of everybody else. This quote comes from Daniel Lubetzky, who is the founder of Kind. And I think this really exemplifies the kind of person who's going to read this book. They are looking to employ empathy in the workplace because they understand that this is what's going to make the best future leaders. This is what's going to give leaders an edge. This is what's going to propel businesses into the future. They understand that the days of not having empathy or just thinking of empathy as a nice to have are gone. If we want to be able to actually take businesses into the future with some of the generational friction that's going on, with the rapid changing technology, with the introduction of AI, it's going to take people who can connect to other people. And that's what empathy is. The word breaks down as M-E-M, meaning in, and pathy, or pathos, meaning feeling. When you feel empathy, you are in feeling with somebody else. You are not taking responsibility. You are not trying to fix it. You are not getting involved. You are just feeling it. This is important, especially the not taking responsibility part. When you're talking about it organizationally, this is not something soft and cuddly. This is a strategic application of empathy to better understand your stakeholders, for the purpose of this channel, usually employees, but all stakeholders, so that you can effectively employ the correct EQ skills and take action. We're always going to talk about action here. It's not enough for us to just have it. We have to be able to use it. And that's what we're talking about on this channel. So what's the definition of emotional intelligence? I mean, we've been talking about this since 1989. So specifically, what is it? In the article by Salovey and Mayer, I've heard 1989, I've heard 1990, so maybe it just happened to be at the end of that year. The definition is an understanding and control of your own emotions and understanding others' emotions to be able to take action, whether it's to motivate, to innovate, to inspire, to communicate. The point is that we're using these things to make something happen. And that's the important part, that actionability. Strategic application for actionability. This is important. That's what EQ via empathy is. It's EQ through the use of empathy. If you think of EQ as a tool bag, it's going to be filled with all sorts of stuff, right? There's going to be a nail punch and a screwdriver and a wrench and a saw and probably a bunch of nails on the bottom and whatever else. Empathy allows you to connect with your people, so when you reach into that tool bag of emotional intelligence, you don't pull out a hammer when you should be pulling out a chisel. That's the point here. As we continue on in this chapter, I do take some time to talk about what empathy isn't. Empathy is not sympathy, right? Sympathy usually has a judgment element of some kind. You're judging the situation, you're judging that other person, right? Oh, thank God that wasn't me. Or, but for the grace of God, there go I. I've heard both of those. You're judging somehow, and in that there's a disconnection between you and that other person. Empathy is a connection. As long as there's judgment, you can't have connection. If you can't have connection, you can't have empathy. Sympathy and empathy are different. Medical professionals are actually trained to stay away from sympathy because it can be kind of negative. And patients definitely perceive it negatively. So it's not necessarily a good thing. Empathy and judgment just can't exist in the same place. Period. Empathy is not compassion, even though the two are related. Empathy is just a state of being, right? I'm in that feeling with you. Now I can use that state of being to create action. And that's what compassion is. Compassion is that action element. You have empathy. You do compassion. Empathy is not woo. And even as I say that, that's nothing against anybody else. It's just not what we're talking about. A lot of times in the popular culture, when people use the word empath, it means something different than what we're talking about here. We use the word empath in academic circles because if you're writing a document like a dissertation and you have to write empathetic 800,000 times, you will shorten it to empath. Generally in the academic literature, you see the word empath for that reason. And the end of the word empathetic is pathetic. And I don't feel that that does the word justice. So when we're talking about empath, we're talking about somebody with empathy, which is most of us, right? Like 93 to 98% of people have empathy. Empathy is not coddling. Again, it's pulling in this idea that it's something that's weak, that it's something that is soft, and it's not that at all. You're just in the feeling. That's it. Empathy is not sensitivity. I actually hear people confusing this a lot. That they're just that sensitive type and they're feeling for everybody else and they, have these really deep emotions. You can have deep emotions and not have any feeling from anybody else. Sometimes the two go together, but they don't have to. They can be two really different things. And finally, empathy is not something to be relegated to HR. And again, that's nothing against HR. It's just that if you're going to actually employ EQ via empathy, it's something that starts at the top, is actionable, people see you do it, and it comes down. Everybody is responsible for doing it. So you can't just house it in one department and bring out a training once a year and think it's going to be enough. It's a very actionable thing that happens every day. I recently found an article that said that we have, on average, the possibility of showing empathy 9 times in a day. And I'd be willing to bet that for those in leadership positions, it's probably even more. So it's something that we all have to do actionably. It's not something that a single department can house. Thank you so much, and we will do the second half of this later in the week. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.